Hello, everyone, and welcome back to In the Pink. I'm April, and today we're talking about something that completely changed how I understood myself after being diagnosed with ADHD at 30 years old. And before I get into today's episode, I just want to say a couple things. Actually, they're my obsessions of the week. Um, One is the new Elle series. Yes, the one that Reese Witherspoon co-produced, and Lexi Minitry is actually super talented and she makes a great Elle Woods, better than I could have done. I mean, granted, I kind of envy her a little bit, but which is odd for me to say because I'm not usually the jealous type. But but it's honestly just like a thank you for showing me my future kind of thing because honestly, I aspire to be Elle Woods, like not in a lawyer sense, but in a teacher sense. And obviously with a ton of pink. And another favorite of mine has to be God, I'm gonna butcher this. It's like coquette. Yeah, is that how you pronounce it? Yeah, the coquette style. Yeah, I find it super cute. Like cottage core, super freaking cute. Like I almost went on a super shopping spree on Amazon the other day and I realized that like I have to pay for my photographer for my wedding, so couldn't do that. But honestly, like that's the kind of vibe we're going for. Not for my wedding, but for the rest of the summer and hopefully for the fall. Coquette, yes. Anyway, when people think about ADHD, they usually think about forgetting things, being distracted, like me currently, and struggling to stay organized. But what almost nobody talks about is the emotional side of ADHD. The part where one piece of criticism can ruin your entire day. Where someone's saying, like, can we talk later, like, makes your stomach completely drop. I know because that has happened to me on multiple occasions, and usually it's like something totally harmless. And and also like where you replay conversations over and over, wondering if you said something wrong or wondering if you could have said something different. Or a delayed text messages, plural, somehow turn into they hate me. If any of that sounds familiar, today's episode is for you. Please stick around. And we're diving into rejection sensitivity dysphoria, or known as RSD. And what researchers know about it and why it seems to affect so many people with ADHD. And most importantly, what we can do about it. As always, this podcast is educational and not a substitute for individualized medical or mental health advice. If these experiences are significantly affecting your life, consider speaking with a qualified healthcare professional. So, part one, what is RSD? So, RSD refers to an intense emotional response to real or perceived rejection, criticism, exclusion, or failure. And notice the phrase perceived rejection. And sometimes nothing objectively negative has happened. Like, for example, someone forgets to text back, or your boss sounded busy, or your friend canceled dinner. You receive constructive feedback on something you worked really hard on. And for someone with RSD, these situations can really trigger emotional pain that feels intimate. Intimate. I meant to say immediate, but it can feel intimate, intense, and deeply personal. And now here's a really important distinction. RSD is not an official diagnosis in the DSM-5. However, many ADHD clinicians describe it as a common experience among their patients, and researchers have long recognized that emotional dysregulation is a significant part of ADHD for many people. In other words, the label RSD is not an official diagnosis. The emotional experiences behind it are very, very real. And here's why ADHD is more than attention. One of the biggest misconceptions about ADHD is that it's simply an attention disorder. It's not. ADHD affects executive functioning, and executive functioning includes emotional regulation, working memory, impulse control, planning, organization, and cognitive flexibility. The brain regions involved in ADHD, including networks involving the prefrontal cortex, play an important role in regulating emotions as well as attention. Think of your brain's emotional response like a smoke alarm. For many people with ADHD, the alarm activates when there's a real fire. For many people with without ADHD. Wow. God, we're doing great. But for many people with ADHD, that smoke alarm can be much more sensitive. Like burnt toast, the alarm goes off. Steam from the shower, the alarm goes off. That tiny amount of smoke, the alarm goes off. And that doesn't mean that the alarm is quote unquote wrong. It means that it's incredibly sensitive. That's what emotional regulation can sometimes feel like with ADHD. And researchers have also found that emotional dysregulation is associated with greater impairment in adults with ADHD, affecting work life, relationships, and overall quality of life. And why does rejection hurt so much? Let's talk about childhood, shall we? Many adults with ADHD share remarkably similar experiences growing up. Like, oh, you aren't applying yourself, or oh, you forgot again. Why can't you just focus? You have so much potential, or oh, you just need to try harder. Research suggests that children with ADHD often receive significantly more corrective or negative feedback than their peers. Not because they're bad children, but because ADHD symptoms naturally lead to more interruptions, mistakes, forgotten assignments, impulsive comments, or unfinished work. Over time, your brain starts making predictions. It learns, like, oh, I'm probably going to mess this up. Or, oh, they're probably disappointed. Or, oh, I shouldn't speak up. Or, oh, I'll embarrass myself. Eventually, rejection becomes something your brain expects, even when there is not evidence that it's happening. And here's what RSD can look like. One thing that people don't realize is that RSD doesn't always look emotional on the outside. It can sometimes look like perfectionism. Like, if I never make mistakes, no one can criticize me. This was so key during my adolescence. I can't even begin to tell you. Like, I remember in high school, I strived for perfectionism, mostly so I could get into, like, a top-tier school. And, like, I dreamt of going to, like, universities like Brown, Harvard, UPenn, or even Dartmouth. And yes, those are the exact Ivy League schools I applied to. Got interviews for all of them, got rejected from all of them. But it can sometimes look like procrastination as well. Like, if I never start, I never have to fail. And sometimes it looks like people pleasing. And if everyone likes me, no one can reject me. And sometimes it can look like overworking, constant apologizing, avoiding difficult conversations, not applying for the dream job, never posting your art on Instagram, never asking someone out on a date, or staying in quiet meetings, masking your personality because you're afraid people won't like the real you. And oh my gosh, that just reminded me of a quote from Sex and the City, the movie, the first movie. It's the scene where Charlotte and Carrie are desk shopping, and Charlotte starts to cry because she's like, it's a miracle I'm even pregnant. You know, she's pregnant with baby Rose. And she starts saying, like, look at you, look at Miranda, you're all such good people, look what happened to you. And then Carrie goes, sweetie, you shit your pants this year. Maybe you're done. You run every day. You can't just stop being who you are because you're afraid. Yes, 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 yes. I'm literally snapping my fingers. And when you look beneath the surface, many of these behaviors aren't about laziness or lack of motivation. They're protective strategies. Your brain is trying to protect you from emotional pain. And what actually helps? The goal isn't to stop caring. The goal is to build resilience so rejection does not define your identity. So ask yourself, what evidence do I actually have? What are 3 other explanations? Maybe your friend is really busy. Maybe your boss was rushing into another meeting. Or maybe the text messages just got buried. Or maybe they'll respond later. Our brains naturally just fill in the blanks, but those stories aren't always facts. And the key here is to separate your identity from your behavior. Instead of like, oh, I'm a failure, try, oh, I made a mistake. Those are completely different statements. And one of them is empowering as opposed to the other. And then you have to build self-compassion. Research led by psychologist Kristen Neff has consistently shown that self-compassion is associated with lower anxiety, greater resilience, and healthier responses to setbacks. Treat yourself with the same kindness that you'd offer a close friend, like what Carrie did to Charlotte. And move your body. Exercise isn't just good for physical health. Regular physical activity has been shown to improve mood, reduce stress, and support executive functioning in people with ADHD. I cannot say that enough. In fact, I said that in the previous episode. If you haven't listened to it yet, go listen to it. Regular physical activity has been shown to... Wait, oh my god. Did I just read that again? Oh my god. Sorry, I'm reading from my notes and I'm just like... What the heck? It doesn't help that it's like after 11 at night where I'm from. Speaking of which, get enough sleep. Sleep deprivation makes emotional regulation harder for everyone, but particularly for people with ADHD. Protecting your sleep isn't laziness. It's emotional maintenance. And consider professional support. For some people, therapy, especially approaches like cognitive behavioral therapies, also known as CBT, can help identify thinking patterns and develop healthier responses. ADHD medication may also improve emotional regulation for some individuals, though some experiences vary. And treatment decisions should always be made with a healthcare professional. I cannot say that enough. Use your common sense. So, my point is, if you spent years believing you were too sensitive, too emotional, or too much, I want you to hear this. Your emotions are real. Your pain is real. But your emotions are not always evidence. Sometimes they're signals that your nervous system has learned to anticipate rejection before it actually happens. Learning you have ADHD doesn't erase those experiences, but it gives you something incredibly powerful. Context. I'll say that again. Context. It helps explain why you've carried so much shame, why criticism feels heavier, why relationships sometimes feel exhausting, and perhaps more importantly, it reminds you that your brain is not broken. It simply processes the world differently. And healing isn't becoming someone who never feels rejection. Healing is learning rejection, real or imagined, is not the measure of your worth. And before we wrap up, and I hope you stayed to the end, I want you to leave with this week's affirmation. I release the belief that my worth depends on other people's approval. I am enough, even when I make mistakes. I choose self-compassion over self-criticism, and I trust that I can handle discomfort without letting it define me. And here's this week's self-love question. If I stopped assuming everyone was judging me, what would I finally have the courage to do? Thank you so much for spending this time with me today. If this episode resonated with you, please share it with someone who might need to hear it. And if you enjoyed today's conversation, be sure to subscribe so you never miss an episode of In the Pink. Until next time, remember this. You are worthy, not because you're perfect, but because you're human. Mwah. Bye.